Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating, action-oriented legacies of the top 5 wealthiest women on the planet. When we hear about massive, world-altering wealth, it's so easy to just get completely lost in the sheer number of zeros. But today, we're going to look strictly at the data, the source material, and the actual moves these titans of industry are making. We want to understand what really happens when you combine limitless capital with a highly distinct personal vision. We aren't just talking about passive bank accounts here. We are talking about women shaping global trade, revolutionizing sports ownership, and literally building massive institutions from the ground up.
Okay, $387.6 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That figure represents the combined, real-time net worth of these top 5 women, based on data from July 2026. This isn't just a big number. It is literally the economic equivalent of the GDP of entire nations, held in the hands of just 5 individuals and their families. To truly grasp the impact of wealth at this magnitude, we've got to break it down and see exactly where this capital actually lives and breathes in the global economy.
Just thinking about the sheer scale of the top 3 fortunes gives us a real sense of the empires we're about to unpack. We've got Alice Walton leading the pack at nearly $120 billion, followed by Francois Bettencourt Myers and Julia Koch. The leaps between these tiers are absolutely staggering. It really sets the stage for the total dominance these women have in their respective sectors, from retail and beauty all the way to industrial conglomerates. So here is our game plan for today. We're going to explore 5 distinct blueprints for managing immense power. 1. The shipping co-founder. 2. The Chilean conglomerate. 3. Inherited empires and sports. 4. The reigning beauty heiress. And finally, 5. The Walmart philanthropist. Let's get right into it.
Starting us off, the shipping co-founder Rafaela Aponto Diamant. Commanding a net worth of $44.9 billion, her story is a brilliant example of building an empire from the absolute ground up. Honestly, it sounds like the plot of a movie. Back in the 1960s, Rafaela takes a trip to the beautiful Italian island of Capri, where she happens to meet a ship captain named John Luigi. By 1970, the two decide to dive into the shipping industry together. They secure a $200,000 loan just to purchase a single ship. Fast forward to 2026, and Rafaela owns a 50% stake in MSC, which is now the world's largest shipping line. Her husband, John Luigi, owns the other 50%. Literally, from one single ship to total global dominance.
But here's the crucial point. This isn't just about moving cargo containers anymore. MSC is a massive, multifaceted logistics and leisure network. They operate holiday cruises through MSC Cruises, inland logistics via Medlog, and massive port operations under Terminal Investment Limited. And through all this expansion, it remains entirely a family affair. Gianluigi serves as the executive chairman, their son Diego is the president, and Rafaela herself remains incredibly hands-on. She actually takes personal responsibility for decorating the ships for MSC Cruises. Moving right along to number 2, the Chilean conglomerate, overseen by Iris Fontbona. Fontbona and her family command a fortune of $47.9 billion. She took the helm of this South American dynasty following the tragic passing of her husband, Andronica Luksic, back in 2005. This wealth is deeply, deeply embedded in both the natural resources and the daily commerce of Chile. Navigating a family business of this insane scale through grief, including the later tragic loss of her son Guillermo to lung cancer in 2013, requires an incredible amount of resilience and strategic structuring, and that is exactly what this family has pulled off. It is actually super fascinating how they manage an operation this large. The family's wealth rests on 2 massive decentralized pillars. On one side, Fontbona and her children control Antofagasta plc. That's a copper mining giant in Chile that trades on the London Stock Exchange, with Jean-Paul Luksic serving as chairman. On the flip side is Quinenco, a publicly traded Chilean conglomerate involved in banking, beer, and manufacturing. Her son Andronico headed Quinenco for a decade before stepping down in December 2023. They have beautifully decentralized the management of a massive, heavily diversified empire. Chapter 3, Inherited Empires and Sports, featuring Julia Koch. Now holding a staggering net worth of $81.2 billion, her path to the stratosphere of global wealth is incredibly unexpected. She was actually an Iowa native who moved to New York City in the 1980s. She worked as an assistant to fashion designer Adolfo, dressing high-profile clients, including First Lady Nancy Reagan. Then, in 1991, she met David Koch on a blind date. They ran into each other again 6 months later and eventually married in 1996. Following his passing in 2019, Julia and her 3 children inherited a $40 42% stake in Coke Inc., which you might know by its former name, Koch Industries.
But here is where it gets really fun, especially if you're a sports fan. In 2024, Coach and her 3 children deployed nearly $750 million, almost $700 million, to acquire 15% of BSE Global. For those who aren't familiar, BSE Global is the powerhouse company that owns the NBA's Brooklyn Nets and the WNBA's New York Liberty. They are strategically planting their flag and top-tier, massive market athletic franchises.
And then they doubled down. In 2025, the family took it a major step further and acquired a 10% stake in the NFL's New York Giants. This was an absolute blockbuster deal, buying into a franchise with an astronomical valuation exceeding $10 billion. So, in just 2 short years, Julia Koch transformed a slice of an industrial inheritance into a prominent seat at the table of New York's premier sports properties. Talk about a pivot.
Fourth on our journey today, the reigning beauty heiress, Françoise Bettencourt Myers.
Sitting on a fortune of $93.9 billion, Françoise officially became France's reigning L'Oreal heiress in 2017. That was after her mother, Liliane, who was the world's richest woman at the time, passed away at the age of 94. Her immediate family retains an incredibly powerful hold on the company, owning more than a third, 33.3% of this publicly traded beauty giant. It's an astonishing concentration of equity and one of the most recognizable consumer brands in global history. It gives them immense voting power and strategic influence over the company's entire direction. You know, she isn't just sitting back and passively holding those shares. She actively steered the company, serving on L'Oreal's board for nearly 3 decades, from 1997 right up until her retirement in 2025. What happened next is a textbook example of a highly structured, highly successful generational handover. When she stepped down, her son Jean-Victor replaced her as vice chairman. Her other son, Nicolas, is also a director. The succession plan was executed seamlessly, firmly securing the family's oversight for the next generation. Beyond cosmetics and boardrooms, Françoise directs some truly massive philanthropic efforts. She serves as the president of her family's philanthropic foundation, which champions French arts and sciences. Most notably, she stepped up immediately during a major cultural emergency. Remember when the Notre Dame Cathedral burned down in 2019? Well, L'Oreal and the Bettencourt Myers family got together and donated a staggering $226 million to help repair that historic landmark. And finally, number 5 on our agenda, the Walmart philanthropist, Alice Walton. Controlling an absolutely mind-blowing $119.7 billion, Alice is the only daughter of Walmart founder Sam Walton. That makes her the wealthiest woman on Earth and the 16th richest person in the world overall as of July 2026. But here's what's cool. Unlike her brothers, Rob and Jim, who took their seats in the corporate boardroom to guide Walmart's day-to-day operations, Alice chose a completely different path for her retail inheritance. She has been entirely focused on elevating art and medical education, specifically in her family's hometown of Bentonville, Arkansas. In 2011, she opened the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, curating masterpieces from legends like Andy Warhol, Norman Rockwell, and Mark Rothko. She literally brought world-class culture directly to America's heartland. But wait, she didn't stop at art. This isn't just about buying expensive paintings to hang on a wall. She is heavily investing in the future of healthcare. In 2025, Walton welcomed the inaugural class of 48 four-year MD students to her brand new Alice L. Walton School of Medicine in Bentonville. She is minting the next generation of doctors right now, proving that the ultimate luxury of wealth is the ability to build lasting, life-saving institutions. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to look at these 5 wildly different paths. From massive global logistics and copper mining to high-stakes sports team acquisitions to funding medical schools and rebuilding Notre Dame, we've seen women who built empires from a single ship and those who successfully navigated massive industrial successions. Based on the deeply distinct paths we've explored today, ask yourself, does true power lie simply in inheriting a massive fortune, or in exactly how you choose to reshape it for the next generation? Think about what true legacy looks like when resources are truly limitless. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning the data behind the headlines.